Hi, my name is Darlene Adams, and I want to tell you a story about what COVID-19 did for me. In 2019, my husband and I moved to Ghana from the UAE, where I'd been teaching and leading a school of K through 12, the English department there. I just had it in my mind that I wanted to do teacher training. I wanted to learn about the teaching and learning environment in Ghana and see where I fit in and where my knowledge, skills, and experience would be most utilized. So I started a teacher training program where I would go to local schools and talk to the leaders there, do an assessment of what the most beneficial teacher training would be, and then provide some training for the teachers in those schools. I had done just about maybe three different schools and talked to the different teachers when March 15th came around and all the schools shut down. This was COVID. Everybody was at home. Everybody's looking at each other. What are we supposed to do? How long is this going to last? We don't know. So in the beginning, we're all just waiting for it to be over. We're thinking this can't last more than a couple of weeks, maximum a month. As the time progressed and the schools weren't opening, there were so many children in the neighborhood that they were just hanging around. I decided to ask my neighbor if her children would like to come over and have some classes. I saw them every day anyway. We used to go to their shop to buy bread in the morning. We weren't spreading any germs that we wouldn't be spreading anyways. So I said, do you want to come over, have some classes for a couple of hours a day because we're not doing anything anyway. So the two older girls began classes probably about 2 hours a day. The little brother had been visiting his grandmother in another city. When he returned home, his mom said, oh, well, he wants to come to classes as well. So I had to start another class to accommodate him as he was much younger and his learning needs were so much different. Of course, he didn't want to come by himself, so he invited his friend to come along with him. As the time passed, more and more of the neighborhood children heard about what I was doing, and they also wanted to join. Long story short, over the next 2 months, the number of children coming to my house to do like independent lessons grew to about 15. Because the students didn't have to be there, I had absolutely no discipline problems or classroom management issues at all. If they didn't want to be there, they could go home or go wherever. They were free to leave. They could choose to be there. So they did choose to be there. The activities that we chose to do were all according to their interest. One day, one of the little girls brought a book and asked me to read it to everybody. The book was about a magic tree. So it was a fantasy book that we talked about. Is this real or isn't this real? In the story, they talked about a plant that could eat insects. So I said, do you think there's such a thing as a plant that can eat insects? And they're just like, no, it's a fantasy. It's not real. It's from this magic tree book. So we went on the internet and we looked up plants that eat insects. And what did we find? There are multiple varieties of plants that actually eat insects, but we focused on the Venus flytrap. I asked the kids if they would like to draw the Venus flytraps. So we got out paper and pencil crayons and we drew it. And then we're like, oh, so what kind of background should we put for the Venus flytrap? Which took us on another research project to see where do Venus flytraps live. In our research on YouTube, we found a video that had a jumping rat kicking a rattlesnake in the face. So that was, of course, so interesting. Like, why is this rattlesnake getting kicked by this rat? And it said that the rat's hind legs were developed in such a way that they could kick a rattlesnake in the head and get away before the rattlesnake was able to eat it. And so we began talking about different ways that plants and animals survive in their particular environments. And what about those environments allow those particular plants and animals to live there? So this led to us talking about different biomes of the world. And the different biomes like deserts, tundra, rainforest, deciduous forest, savanna. We talked about all of these different areas and what kinds of plants and animals can live in each of them. So we ended up dividing into groups, teams. I think there was only 2 people in each of the teams that they were going to study out. They would choose an area and study out each of the different areas and tell us what plants live there, what animals live there, and what special features of the plants and animals that allow them to survive in that environment. So it was such an amazing learning journey. It taught me so much about what it means to have engaged children learning according to their own interests and making up the projects as we go along. Each team ended up putting together a PowerPoint. So we were doing IT, we were doing research, we were learning geography and how biology about how plants and animals survive. I had some old laptops that I had brought from Canada, so the different teams were able to work out their power presentations. And then we invited the parents so that they could give their presentation. As an introduction, we went on YouTube and found a song about biomes that they were able to all sing together as the introduction when their parents came. Many of the parents were so surprised at the learning that had happened with their students, even though they weren't in school, and the ability that they showed and standing up in front of their audience of adults that they didn't know. It was amazing that they were able to speak out what they had learned. It was an incredible example of child-led organic curriculum that developed out of the interests of the children in the group. The children were excited. They were engaged in the learning. They learned so much, and nobody had to be there. Nobody had to be forced. Nobody even had to really guide them or tell them what to do because they were so interested that they asked the questions, they put together their presentations, and they did the research, and they presented in the way that they wanted to do it so that they could express themselves. It was a perfect example of what education can and should be. Using this model, the next month, we put together a program where we had about 22 kids. We added in a little more math and a little more conscious reading. But basically, the main focus was putting together a project of the kids doing research about their own country, Ghana, all 16 regions. Their groups, they chose a region and they researched what was significant about the region. What about its history? What about its landmarks? Why would people want to go and visit there? We went to the Ghana tourist website where they showed us all the interesting and fun things about different parts of Ghana. And then they presented this as well to their parents. It was so exciting. So COVID for me was really a blessing in disguise. I learned so much. I got to be part of the community in a way that I never would have been able to do otherwise, or at least not so quickly. Getting to know my neighbors, getting to understand who the people of Ghana are, and the overwhelming beauty of the Ghanaian people's hearts, all of this led to a deep interest in researching the educational needs across Africa. A snapshot of what that research tells us about education in Africa is that there are low learning outcomes despite there being more kids in schools in the past few decades. More children have been entered in schools, but the education of those children have not provided great outcomes. There are huge gaps in access and equity. There are teacher shortages and a great need for training and development of current teachers. Learning quality is weak because teachers often lack training, guides, classroom materials, and resources. School leaders often are juggling multiple roles without proper training. In short, the research shows that overcoming Africa's learning challenges isn't about getting children into classrooms. It's about supporting the professionals that are already there. Teachers need training. They need leadership. They need support, materials, and platforms to share what's working. That's why I decided to launch this video podcast. I have been an educator for over 30 years in 7 countries across 3 continents. Through my experience and research, I have come to the conclusion that Africa doesn't need more schools. Africa needs better education. And Africa needs to be educated by Africans. So that is why I'm launching How Teachers Are Transforming Education Across Africa, one classroom at a time. I'm launching this podcast because teachers are the heartbeat of education in Africa, and their voices must be heard. Too often, the challenges educators face go unseen, even though they're the ones transforming classrooms, shaping futures, and modeling growth mindsets every single day. This space will celebrate their ingenuity, resilience, and learning, and it will support others striving to grow professionally. I personally am on a quest to learn and grow and develop in all the ways that are going to help me to best support and inspire and empower teachers across Africa to remember who they are, to hold on to their identity and live their values as models in classrooms that will grow a generation of leaders that will bring radical change for the betterment of the whole continent. If you are a teacher in Africa who wants to grow and learn and develop in 21st century teaching and learning, stay tuned to hear from your fellow Africans about the great work that they're doing. They are in the same situation as you. They have the same lack of resources, the same struggles with leadership and support. But we as a group can help each other. If you are a teacher who is innovative in the classroom and you have a specific skill or you are an expert in a certain area and you want to share your expertise with your fellow Africans, please reach out to me to become a guest on this podcast and share what you know with your fellow teachers across Africa. If in any way you feel that this work is beneficial, if you want to support what is being done and believe in the validity of this podcast, please subscribe, like, and most of all, share with your lists, with your friends, with other teachers, so that we can build a community of people who are working towards a better future through education. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to interacting with you more throughout the episodes. Bye.